The hand came out of nowhere, and the sound echoed through the VIP ward like a gunshot. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Not the nurses at their station. Not the visitor frozen mid-step with flowers. Not even Tahira herself, standing there 7 months pregnant, with her hand pressed to her burning cheek. Then the elevator doors opened at the end of the hall, and Choi Hyun-seok, the billionaire who had just slapped her, went completely pale. The footsteps that followed were not rushed, not loud, just steady and expensive. The kind of walk that did not need to hurry because everyone would wait. And when Kang Jae-won stepped into view, his eyes found Tahira first, then slowly, deliberately, shifted to the man who had just made the worst mistake of his life. The polite smile that crossed Jae-won's face was the most terrifying thing anyone in that room had ever seen. The hand came out of nowhere. Tahira felt the sting before she registered the movement, her face snapping to the side as the sound echoed through the VIP ward. For a moment, everything stopped. The nurses at the station froze mid-conversation. A visitor carrying flowers stood completely still. Even the air conditioning seemed to pause. She brought her hand to her cheek slowly, not because it hurt that much, though it did, but because she needed a second to understand what had just happened. Her glasses sat crooked on her face. The man in front of her was breathing hard, his face red with anger. Choi Hyun-seok. She had seen him on television before, usually talking about his latest tech investment, or showing off some new luxury purchase. In person, he looked smaller somehow, despite his expensive watch, and the way he stood like he owned the building. "Do you know who I am?" he said, his voice shaking, not with fear, with rage that someone had dared tell him no. Tahira straightened her glasses. She was 7 months pregnant, her hospital badge slightly crooked on her scrubs, and her feet hurt from a double shift. She had just spent 3 hours helping deliver twins. One of them had needed immediate intervention. Both babies were fine now, sleeping in the nursery with their exhausted mother. She looked at Choi Hyun-seok and felt something she had not expected. Not anger, not fear, just a deep, tired disappointment. "I know exactly who you are," she said quietly. Her Tanzanian accent was still there after 8 years in Seoul, softening her consonants. "That does not change hospital protocol. Emergency cases are treated first. A doctor will see your hand within 20 minutes. 20 minutes? He stepped closer. "Do you understand what I could do to you? One phone call, and you will be deported before morning." Around them, the other staff members were moving now. Nurse Kang, an older woman who had trained Tahira when she first arrived, was already reaching for the phone. Security. Someone else had their phone out. Recording, maybe. Tahira did not move back. She placed one hand gently on her belly, a habit she had developed whenever she needed to stay calm. The baby kicked, a small flutter against her palm. "Sir, you need to leave this floor. Security is coming." Choi laughed, but it sounded wrong. Too high. "Security? Do you think security will touch me? Do you think anyone in this building will do anything?" The elevator at the end of the hall chimed. Tahira did not look. She kept her eyes on Choi, watching the exact moment his expression changed. The anger drained out of his face like someone had pulled a plug. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened slightly. Then she heard the footsteps. Not rushed. Not loud. Just steady. Expensive shoes on polished floors. The kind of walk that didn't need to hurry because people would wait. She knew those footsteps. "Tahira." Jae-won's voice was soft when he reached them. He did not look at Choi yet. He came straight to her, his hands gentle as he tilted her face toward the light. His thumb brushed near the red mark blooming across her cheek. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" "I'm fine," she said. She wanted to ask how he got here so fast, but Nurse Kang must have called him. "The baby is fine, too." Only then did Jae-won turn to face Choi Hyun-seok. The change was so subtle that if you were not looking for it, you might miss it. But Tahira had learned to read Jae-won in the 2 years since they met. The way his shoulders settled, the slight tilt of his head, the small, polite smile that never reached his eyes. This was the version of him she rarely saw, the one from the world he was trying to leave behind. "Mr. Choi," Jae-won said, and his voice was pleasant, friendly even. "I think there has been some confusion." Choi had gone pale. "Mr. Kang, there was a misunderstanding. She was disrespectful, and you just struck my pregnant fiancé in the face." Jae-won's smile did not change. "In front of witnesses, on hospital security cameras. Please, help me understand what part I am confused about." The elevator chimed again. 2 security guards stepped out, but they stopped when they saw Jae-won. Everyone in Seoul's upper circles knew Kang Jae-won, some because of his real estate empire, others because of the rumors about who he knew, who he could call, what he could make happen with a single conversation. "I want to handle this properly," Tahira said quietly. She put her hand on Jae-won's arm. "The legal way." She felt the tension in his muscles, the way he wanted to do this differently, faster, permanent. But after a moment, he covered her hand with his and nodded. "Then we will do it your way," he said. Then he looked back at Choi. "You should call your lawyer. You are going to need several. Before you find out what happens next, do me a favor. Drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Are you Team Tahira, or do you think she should have let Jae-won handle it his way? Tell me below." The hospital administrator arrived 16 minutes later, moving so fast she was nearly running. Director Han was a thin woman in her 50s, who had built her career on discretion and keeping wealthy patients happy. She took one look at the scene, at Tahira's marked face, at Jae-won standing beside her, at Choi Hyun-seok sweating near the nurse's station, and Tahira watched her do the mental math. "Miss Mbise," Director Han said carefully, "perhaps we should discuss this in my office, privately. I am sure we can reach an understanding that works for everyone." "I'm filing a formal complaint," Tahira said, "and a police report for assault. Now, let's not be hasty. Mr. Choi is obviously willing to apologize, aren't you, Mr. Choi?" Choi opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He was staring at Jae-won like a rabbit watching a snake. "She wants to file a report," Jae-won said pleasantly. "So she will file a report, unless hospital policy has changed and patients are allowed to strike staff without consequence." Director Han's smile became strained. "Of course not. We take staff safety very seriously. I simply thought Miss Mbise might prefer to handle this quietly, given her, situation." "What situation?" Tahira asked. Her voice stayed level, but something in her tone made Director Han flinch. "I only meant, with the wedding coming, and the pregnancy, surely you would prefer not to deal with the stress of legal proceedings. These things can drag on, become very public, very complicated for everyone involved." There it was, the gentle threat wrapped in concern. Tahira had heard variations of it her whole life. In Tanzania, when she had fought for her scholarship. In Korea, when she had applied for her nursing license. Always the same message underneath the polite words. Know your place. Do not make trouble. Accept what you are given and be grateful. She was tired of it. "I want everything documented," she said. "Every word, every camera angle. I want the police report filed tonight." Nurse Kang appeared at her elbow with an ice pack. "Here, dear. Sit down before you fall down. You have been on your feet for 12 hours. Tahira took the ice pack gratefully and pressed it to her cheek. The cold helped, but what helped more was Nurse Kang's solid presence beside her. The older woman had 3 grown sons and a reputation for not tolerating nonsense from anyone, regardless of their bank account. "I saw everything," Nurse Kang announced to the room. "I will give my statement to the police. So will Nurse Park and Nurse Min. We all saw it." The 2 younger nurses nodded immediately. Nurse Park was already typing on her phone. "The video is already online," she said quietly. Someone posted it 2 minutes ago. It is spreading fast. Director Han's face went gray. What video? From the waiting area, Nurse Park turned her phone around. The patient's husband was filming his wife being checked in. He caught everything. Tahira watched the short clip. The angle was not perfect, but it was clear enough. Her explaining about the wait time, her professional smile. Choi grabbing her wrist. The slap. The sound was even worse on video, sharp and cruel. The view counter was climbing rapidly. 20 shares, 50, 100. Choi finally found his voice. Delete that. I will sue whoever posted it. I will sue this entire hospital. You cannot use my image without permission. You are in a public space, Jae-won said mildly. And you just committed assault on camera. I think image rights are the least of your problems. 2 police officers arrived while they were still arguing. Young guys, probably early 30s, looking uncomfortable about being called to a VIP hospital floor. Their discomfort increased when they recognized Choi, then went through the roof when they saw Jae-won. Tahira explained what happened 3 times. Each time her voice stayed steady. She showed them the mark on her face. She walked them through the timeline. She was good at this, at staying calm during emergencies. It was what made her an excellent nurse. But inside, she could feel something shaking loose. Not fear, exactly. More like anger she had been holding back for a very long time. One of the officers, the shorter one with kind eyes, took her statement with obvious sympathy. The other kept glancing at Choi like he was hoping this would all turn out to be a joke. Ma'am, are you sure you want to press charges? The taller officer asked. Sometimes these situations can be resolved with an apology. Less stress for everyone, especially in your condition. Jae-won made a sound that was not quite a laugh. The officer actually took a step back. She already said what she wants. Jae-won's voice had not changed. Still pleasant. Still friendly. Somehow, that made it worse. Are you suggesting she should not press charges against someone who assaulted her? No, sir. Of course not, sir. We have to ask. It is standard. Is it standard? Jae-won tilted his head slightly. Because it sounds like you were trying to talk a victim out of reporting a crime. I wonder what your supervisor would think about that. The officer's face went red. He turned back to his notebook and started writing faster. Choi's lawyer arrived in under 30 minutes, a sharp-faced woman in a gray suit who immediately started trying to contain the situation. She pulled Choi aside, spoke to him in rapid, angry whispers, then approached Tahira with a business card and a settlement offer. My client deeply regrets his actions, she said. Her tone suggested she regretted nothing except the bad publicity. He was under significant stress and reacted poorly. We are prepared to offer compensation for your pain and suffering. Very generous compensation. In exchange for dropping the charges and signing a non-disclosure agreement. No, Tahira said. The lawyer blinked. You have not heard the amount yet. I do not need to. I am not signing anything. Miss Mbise, be reasonable. Legal proceedings are expensive and exhausting. You are about to have a baby. Do you really want to spend the next year dealing with courts and lawyers? We are offering you a clean resolution. What you are offering is silence, Tahira said. You want to pay me to pretend this did not happen, so he can do it again to someone else. The lawyer's expression hardened. You are making a mistake. My client has significant resources and many friends in important positions. This can become very difficult for you. Jae-won stood up from where he had been leaning against the wall. He had been so quiet that Tahira had almost forgotten he was there. Almost. Are you threatening her? He asked, still smiling. The lawyer looked at him properly for the first time. Recognition and fear flashed across her face, in quick succession. Mr. Kang, I did not. I was simply explaining the reality of the situation. Then let me explain reality to you, Jae-won said softly. If anything happens to her, anything at all, I will assume your client was involved, and I will respond accordingly. Do you understand? The lawyer swallowed. I understand. Good. Now, unless you have actual legal business to discuss, I think you should leave. Your client has a police statement to finish." After they left, Tahira sat down heavily in one of the waiting room chairs. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her shaky and exhausted. The baby was moving more than usual, responding to her stress. Jaewon knelt in front of her, his hands gentle on her knees. "Do you want to go home?" he asked. "I can have them finish the paperwork tomorrow." She shook her head. "I want it done tonight. All of it. Before he has time to make it disappear. He cannot make this disappear, love. Too many witnesses. Too much video. You would be surprised what money can make disappear." He studied her face. "You are right. I apologize. We will finish it tonight." The police report took another hour. By the time they were done, Tahira's shift had ended 2 hours ago, and her replacement had already taken over her patients. She changed out of her scrubs in the staff locker room, moving slowly. Everything hurt. Her back, her feet, her face where the ice pack had numbed the skin. Nurse Kang was waiting when she came out. "You did good, honey," the older woman said, pulling her into a careful hug. "A lot of women would have taken the money and stayed quiet. I am proud of you. I just do not want him to think he can get away with it," Tahira said into her shoulder. "Men like that always think they can get away with it. That is why what you are doing matters." When Tahira finally made it to the parking garage, Jaewon was waiting by his car. Not the flashy sports car he drove sometimes, but the quiet sedan with the tinted windows. He opened the passenger door for her without a word. They were halfway home before he spoke. "I could make him disappear," he said quietly. "Not literally, but I could make his life very difficult very quickly. Investors would pull out. Partners would ghost him. His accounts would face sudden audits. It would look natural. Just bad luck." "I know you could," Tahira said. "Say the word, and I will do it." She reached over and took his hand off the gear shift, lacing their fingers together. His hands were always warm, even in winter. "I need to do this the right way," she said. "If I let you handle it in the shadows, then I am saying I do not believe the system can work. I am saying people like him will always win unless someone like you intervenes. I cannot accept that. The system is broken, Tahira. You know this. Then we fix it by using it properly. By making so much noise, they cannot ignore it. By showing other people it is possible to fight back." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. "You are a better person than me," he said. "I am not better. I just want different things. What do you want?" She thought about it, about the baby growing inside her, about the wedding in 2 months, about the life they were trying to build together out of 2 very different pasts. "I want to live in a world where people face real consequences for their actions," she said finally. "Where money and connections do not erase everything. Maybe that is naive. But if I give up on that, what am I teaching our daughter?" Jaewon's hand tightened on hers. They had found out it was a girl last week. He had cried in the ultrasound room, silent tears running down his face, while he stared at the blurry image on the screen. "Our daughter is going to be terrifying," he said. "Between your stubbornness and everything else." Tahira laughed, surprised it was possible after everything. "She will be perfect. She will destroy me. I already know it." "Good. You could use some destroying." He glanced at her, eyebrows raised. "Should I be worried?" "Probably." The apartment was dark when they arrived. Jaewon had bought the place 2 years ago, right after they got engaged. It was smaller than his previous place, in a quieter neighborhood. Normal, he had called it. A place where they could have normal lives. Tahira was not sure either of them knew what normal looked like, but they were trying. She went straight to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly so tired she could barely think. Jaewon appeared with a glass of water and her prenatal vitamins, which she had forgotten to take during her shift. "Thank you," she said, swallowing the pills. He sat beside her and very carefully helped her out of her shoes. Her feet were swollen, the skin tight and uncomfortable. Without being asked, he started massaging them gently. "Tell me about your day," he said. Before I got slapped? Before that. You delivered twins, didn't you?" She had almost forgotten. It felt like years ago instead of hours. "Baby A came out fine," she said, closing her eyes. "But baby B was breech. We had to move fast. Dr. Kim was amazing. She knew exactly what to do. Both babies are healthy. 4 pounds each. Tiny but strong. Like their nurse. I'm not that tiny anymore. I am enormous. You are beautiful." She opened one eye. "You have to say that. You did this to me." He grinned, the real smile she loved. "I had help. Minimal help. I'm doing all the hard work now. I know. You are incredible." She let him rub her feet in silence for a while, feeling the tension slowly drain out of her body. This was what she had fallen in love with. Not the money, or the power, or the mysterious connections. This. The quiet moments where he took care of her without making a production of it. Where he listened like her words mattered more than anything else. Her phone buzzed, then again, and again. "You are popular," Jaewon said. She checked the screen and her stomach dropped. 73 notifications. Messages, tags, shares. The video had gone viral, really viral. "Oh no," she whispered. "What is wrong?" She turned the phone toward him. The video had over 200,000 views now. The comment section was exploding. Most were supportive, angry on her behalf, calling for Choi to be arrested. But others, the ones that made her hands shake, were already starting. Who does she think she is? Probably rude to him first. Foreigners always causing drama. She is just looking for money. Gold digger playing victim. "Stop reading those." Jae-won took the phone gently from her hands. "Those people do not matter." "They do, though. That is what people will think. Some people. Ignorant people. But look at the other comments. Thousands of people supporting you." He was right. For every hateful comment, there were dozens more defending her, sharing their own stories of being mistreated by wealthy patients, praising her for standing up for herself. But the hateful ones still stung. "This is going to get worse before it gets better," she said quietly. "I know. Your business. This is going to affect you too. People will start digging into your past, into us. Let them dig. Jae-won." He set the phone aside and took her face in his hands, careful of the bruise. "Listen to me. I have spent 10 years building walls around my life, keeping everything separate. Business here, personal life there, the other stuff buried deep where no one can see. I am tired of it. I'm tired of hiding. If the price of standing beside you is that people finally see who I really am, then fine. Let them see. You do not mean that. I do. You make me want to be better. You make me think maybe I can be better. But I cannot do that while pretending you do not exist. So if going public means some business deals fall through, so be it. If it means old associates get nervous, good. I want them nervous. I want distance from that world anyway." Tahira felt tears building behind her eyes. Pregnancy hormones, she told herself. But she knew it was more than that. "When did you get so brave?" she asked. "I am not brave. I am selfish. I want you more than I want any of the rest of it. That is the most romantic thing you have ever said to me. I told you I would burn the world down for you on our second date. That was concerning, not romantic. You still said yes when I proposed. I have questionable judgment, apparently." He kissed her forehead, soft and sweet. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be intense." He was right about that, too. By morning, the video had 3 million views. Tahira woke up to her phone exploding with notifications. Messages from friends in Tanzania, former classmates, people she had not spoken to in years. Everyone had seen it. Everyone had an opinion. The news outlets had picked it up too. Not the major stations yet, but the online news sites and bloggers. Tech billionaire assaults pregnant nurse. Choi Hyun-suk caught on camera. Foreign healthcare worker attacked at VIP hospital. That last headline made her want to throw her phone across the room. Foreign. Like that was the most important part of the story. Jae-won was already up, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop and 3 phones. He was in what she called his work mode, face serious, fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard. "Coffee?" he asked without looking up. "I'm not supposed to have coffee." "Decaf. I bought some yesterday." She loved him so much in that moment it hurt. The decaf was terrible, but she drank it anyway, settling into the chair across from him. Through the window, Seoul was waking up. Traffic building, people heading to work. Normal life continuing like her entire world had not just shifted sideways. "3 reporters have called my office," Jae-won said. "They want interviews, comments, background on our relationship." "What did you say?" "Nothing yet." "That is your decision." Tahira wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "What do you think I should do? Honestly, I think you should talk to them. Control the narrative before someone else does. But I am biased. I want everyone to know exactly what happened and who did it." Before she could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted. Not quite worried, but close. "I need to take this," he said, stepping into the other room. She could not hear the conversation, but she could see him through the doorway, the set of his shoulders, the way he ran his hand through his hair, which he only did when stressed. When he came back, his face was carefully neutral. "That was Lee," he said. Lee was his second in command at Kang Group. "The board wants an emergency meeting. They are concerned about the publicity. They want you to distance yourself from me." It was not a question. "They can want whatever they like," Jae-won said flatly. "I am not doing that. Maybe you should hear them out." "Tahira, I am serious. Your company is important. If this damages it, if you lose investors or contracts because of me, then I lose them. I have rebuilt before. I can do it again." "You are being stubborn. I learned from the best." Her phone rang before she could argue. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. "Miss Mbisa?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. "My name is Park Min-ji. I am a reporter with Seoul Daily News. I was hoping to ask you a few questions about the incident yesterday." Here we go, Tahira thought. Time to see if the truth was actually strong enough to fight back. "I will answer your questions," Tahira said into the phone, "but I want to record the conversation too, for my own records." There was a pause. Then Park Min-ji laughed, surprised. "That is fair. Most people do not think of that. I am learning to protect myself." "Good. You should. Can we meet in person? I find phone interviews lose something." Tahira glanced at Jae-won, who was watching her carefully. "There is a cafe near the hospital, Sunshine Corner. Do you know it?" "I will find it." 2 hours? 2 hours. When she hung up, Jae-won was already shaking his head. "You are not going alone. I can handle 1 reporter. I know you can. But I am coming anyway. You can handle the interview. I will handle everything else." Everything else turned out to be necessary. When they arrived at Sunshine Corner, a small cafe Tahira loved for its quiet atmosphere and excellent ginger tea, there were already 2 other reporters waiting outside. Someone had leaked the meeting location. "Miss Mbise, just a few questions. Is it true you are suing the hospital? How long have you and Mr. Kang been together?" Jae-won moved in front of her smoothly, not touching anyone but somehow creating a clear path to the door. She has an appointment with Seoul Daily News. Everyone else can submit requests through proper channels. Inside, Park Min-ji was already seated at a corner table. She was younger than Tahira expected, maybe early 30s, with short hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She stood when they approached. "Miss Mbise, Mr. Kang, thank you for meeting me." They ordered tea, Tahira her usual ginger, and Jae-won something dark that smelled like expensive leaves. Park Min-ji set a small recorder on the table between them. "I will be recording as well," she said, "for accuracy. Everything I quote will come directly from this conversation. If you want anything off the record, just say so, and I will note it." Tahira appreciated the directness. "Okay. Let me start by saying I have watched the video probably 50 times. What happened to you was assault, clear and simple. My article will reflect that. But I want to give you a chance to tell your side fully, not just the 30-second clip everyone has seen." So Tahira told it. The whole shift. The twins she had delivered. The tort, emergency C-section on the floor above. The exhaustion and the aching feet. And the moment Choi Hyun-seok had walked in, demanding immediate treatment for what turned out to be a paper cut. Literally, a paper cut. Park Min-ji's eyebrows climbed higher with each detail. "He slapped you over a paper cut?" "He slapped me because I told him no," Tahira corrected. The injury did not matter. What mattered was that I did not treat him like he was more important than everyone else. "And the hospital administration, how did they respond?" Tahira chose her words carefully. "Director Han suggested I might want to handle things quietly. She seemed very concerned about bad publicity." "For you or for the hospital?" "For the hospital. And for Mr. Choi." Park Min-ji made a note. "You filed a police report anyway?" "I did. Knowing it would become public, knowing people would dig into your life, your background, your relationship. Why take that risk?" It was a good question. Tahira had asked herself the same thing approximately 800 times since yesterday. "Because if I stay silent, he wins," she said finally. "And the next time he gets angry at someone who cannot fight back, he will remember that nothing happened to him, that he could hit a pregnant woman in front of witnesses and walk away. I cannot live with that. Even though it is going to be hard, people are already posting hateful comments. I have seen them. Let them post. Words are not the same as violence." Park Min-ji studied her for a long moment. "You are tougher than you look. I have had practice." They talked for another 40 minutes. Park Min-ji asked about her work at the hospital, her training in Tanzania, how she ended up in Seoul. She asked about the pregnancy, though Tahira kept those answers brief. Some things were private. She did not ask much about Jae-won, which Tahira appreciated. He sat quietly beside her the whole time, only speaking when Park Min-ji addressed him directly. "Mr. Kang, you have been very quiet." "This is her story," he said simply, "not mine. But you are part of it now. The video of you arriving at the hospital is almost as viral as the assault. People are very interested in your relationship. People are always interested in things that are not their business." Park Min-ji smiled. "That is what makes me employed. Can I ask how you two met?" Tahira and Jae-won exchanged glances. They had agreed not to share everything, but some things were already public knowledge. "At the hospital," Tahira said. "His grandmother was a patient. I was her nurse." "Love at first sight?" "More like annoyance at first sight," Tahira said, and Jae-won actually laughed. "She told me I was hovering," he admitted. "Said I was making my grandmother anxious and needed to go take a walk." "You were hovering?" "Grandmother had just had a stroke. I was worried." "Worrying is fine. Hovering is not helpful." Park Min-ji was grinning now. "So when did annoyance turn into this?" She gestured at them. "He kept coming back," Tahira said. "Every day. And eventually I realized he was not just visiting his grandmother. He was timing his visits to when I was on shift." "Can you blame me?" Jae-won said quietly. "You were the first person in years who treated me like a normal human being. Not a bank account or a business opportunity, or anything else. Just a worried grandson who needed to stop hovering. The way he looked at her when he said it made Tahira's chest tight. This was the part the cameras never saw. The softness underneath all his edges. Park Minji was writing fast. "That is a good story. It is our story," Tahira said, "and I would appreciate if the focus stays on what happened yesterday, not on our personal life." "Fair enough. Last question. What do you want to happen now? What does justice look like to you?" Tahira had thought about this too, all night, lying awake while Jaewon slept beside her. "I want him to face real consequences," she said. "Not just an apology his lawyers wrote. Not just a fine that means nothing to someone with his money. I want the legal system to work the way it is supposed to work, the same way it would if I had slapped him." "Do you think that will happen?" "I don't know, but I am going to find out." The article went live 6 hours later. Park Minji had worked fast, and the piece was everything Tahira had hoped for. Fair but unflinching. It included the full context, the hospital's response, and several quotes from other nurses about the culture of protecting wealthy patients over staff safety. It also included a statement from Choi's legal team, which Tahira read with grim satisfaction. Mr. Choi deeply regrets the incident and recognizes his behavior was inappropriate. He was under extreme stress due to ongoing business pressures and reacted poorly to a frustrating situation. He has the utmost respect for healthcare workers and wishes Miss Mbise a healthy pregnancy. "Inappropriate," Tahira read aloud. "He assaulted me, and they call it inappropriate." "They are trying to minimize it," Jaewon said. He was reading the same article on his phone. "Make it sound like he just raised his voice or something. And the part about business pressures, like that is an excuse. Rich men always have an excuse." Tahira kept reading. The comments section was already filling up. The tone had shifted since yesterday. More people were on her side now, especially after reading the full story. But there was also a new element creeping in. Questions about Jaewon. "Who is Kang Jaewon, really? I heard he has connections to some dangerous people. Why did Choi look so scared? There is more to this story." She showed Jaewon. He barely glanced at it. "Let them wonder," he said. "This does not worry you? People have been whispering about me for years. I stopped caring what they think a long time ago." But Tahira noticed he was on his phone more than usual that evening. Short calls in quiet tones. Messages that made his jaw tighten. Something was happening in his world, the parts he usually kept separate from her. She was folding laundry, badly because her belly made it hard to reach the table, when his phone rang again. This time, he did not leave the room. "What is it?" he said by way of greeting. Then his face went completely still. "When?" A pause. "I see. No, do not touch it. I will handle it." He hung up and sat down heavily on the couch. "What is wrong?" Tahira asked. "Someone leaked our wedding details to a gossip site. The date, the location, the guest list, everything." Her stomach dropped. "How?" "I do not know yet. But it was someone with access to the planning documents. The venue is getting calls already, reporters asking for confirmation." They had planned a small wedding, just close friends and family. Tahira's parents were flying in from Tanzania. Jaewon's grandmother, recovered now from her stroke. Maybe 40 people total. Private. Intimate. Theirs. "We can change the location," she said. "We can, but they will find out again. Someone is feeding them information deliberately. Choi. Maybe. Or someone who thinks embarrassing me will score them points." He rubbed his face. "I'm sorry. This is my world bleeding into yours." "Our world," Tahira corrected. "We are getting married, remember? Your problems are my problems." "You say that now." "I said it when I accepted your proposal, too. I knew what I was getting into." "Did you know people would leak your wedding details? That reporters would camp outside your hospital? That every choice you make would be analyzed and criticized by strangers?" Tahira set down the shirt she was folding and moved to sit beside him. It took some maneuvering with her belly, but she managed. No, she admitted. I did not know it would be exactly like this. But I knew it would not be simple. You told me from the start that your life was complicated. I did not want to complicate yours. Too late. You got me pregnant. That surprised a laugh out of him. I seem to remember you being an enthusiastic participant in that process. Details. He pulled her closer, careful of the baby. We could still run away. Go somewhere they will never find us. Change our names. Start completely over. You would hate that. I would love that. Just you and me and the baby. No reporters, no business, no past. Catching up. You would be bored in 3 months. 2 months, probably. See? They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, Seoul hummed with evening traffic. Somewhere in the city, people were reading about them, forming opinions, choosing sides. It felt surreal. Tahira's phone buzzed. A message from Nurse Kong. You should see this. The attached link led to a news site. Not one of the major ones, but the kind that specialized in speculation and half-truths. The headline made Tahira's blood run cold. Pregnant. Nurse's troubled past. Questions emerge about Tahira Mbise's immigration status. She clicked through, her hands shaking. The article was a mess of implications and carefully worded accusations. Nothing directly false, which meant nothing they could easily sue over, but designed to make her look suspicious. Questions about how she obtained her nursing license, suggestions that her relationship with Jae-won gave her unfair advantages. A quote from an unnamed hospital source saying she had been difficult to work with. A mention of her parents in Tanzania, with just enough detail to feel like a threat. They are coming after me, she whispered. Jae-won took the phone, read quickly, and his expression went dark. This is Choi. Has to be. This kind of hit piece takes coordination. Everything in there is technically true, though. I did immigrate. I did work hard for my license. I am dating you. But the way they frame it makes you sound like a con artist. That is intentional. He was already making a call. I need to talk to Park Minji. She will know who runs this site. While he talked, Tahira read the article again. And again. Looking for the trap she knew was there. She found it in the comments section. Someone had posted her home address. Not the apartment she shared with Jae-won, thank God. But her old place, the tiny studio she had rented when she first moved to Seoul. The building manager still had her name on file, apparently. Other comments were piling on. Go back to Africa, gold-digging whore. She probably seduced that rich guy on purpose. I hope they deport her. Jae-won saw her face and took the phone back. He read the comments and made another call. I need a security team at this address. He rattled off her old apartment building. No, I do not care what it costs. I need someone there in 20 minutes, or I find a new security company. Yes. Good. Then another call. Lee, I need our legal team to start libel proceedings against that news site. I do not care if it is complicated. Find a way. Also, I want to know who their investors are. Every single one. By tomorrow. He was in full combat mode now. This was the version of him that built an empire. Cold, efficient, slightly terrifying. Jae-won, Tahira said quietly. He held up one finger, still talking. And put out a statement from Kong Group, short and direct, condemning the attack on Miss Mbise and announcing our full support. Make it clear that anyone spreading lies about her is making an enemy of us. Jae-won, Tahira said louder. He hung up. What? You cannot go to war with everyone who posts something mean about me. There are thousands of them. You will drive yourself crazy? Watch me. I'm serious. This is what they want. They want you reactive and angry, making threats, proving you are the dangerous person the rumors say you are. That stopped him. You think I am making it worse? I think you are trying to protect me the only way you know how. But maybe we need a different approach. What approach? Let them lie about you? Let them post your address and hope nobody does anything with it? No, but fighting fire with fire just makes everything burn. He stared at her. Then what do you suggest? Tahira thought about it, about the nurses who had stood beside her, about Park Minji's fair article, about the thousands of supportive comments mixed in with the hateful ones. We tell more truth, she said, louder, so much truth they cannot drown it out with lies. Before he could respond, his phone rang again. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted to something Tahira had never seen before. Fear, but trying to hide it. I have to take this, he said, stepping onto the balcony. Through the glass, she watched him pace. Whoever was on the other end was doing most of the talking. Jaewon listened, his face getting tighter and tighter, until he finally said something short and sharp, and hung up. When he came back inside, he looked like someone had punched him. That was one of my old associates, he said carefully. From before I went legitimate. Tahira's heart sank. What did they want? To remind me that I owe them. That my current position exists because they allowed it. And that making too much noise, drawing too much attention, is bad for everyone. Are you in danger? No, not directly. But they are making it clear that if I keep pushing this situation with Choi, if I keep making myself visible, they will reconsider our arrangement. What arrangement? The one where they pretend I am not connected to them, and I pretend they do not have leverage over some of my early investments. He sat down heavily. I thought I was out. I've been clean for 3 years, but apparently I'm never really out. Tahira's mind was racing. What happens if you ignore them? Best case? Some of my business deals fall apart. Worst case? People start asking questions I cannot answer about where my seed money came from a decade ago. Would you go to jail? Probably not. But my reputation would be destroyed. The company would collapse. Everything I built would be gone. He said it matter-of-factly, but Tahira could see the tension in every line of his body. This was the nightmare scenario. The past he had been running from catching up all at once. Okay, listen to me, Tahira said, taking his hands. I need you to hear this. If you need to step back, if you need to be quiet to protect yourself, I understand. I will not be angry. I will not think less of you. I'm not stepping back. Jaewon, I'm not stepping back, he repeated firmly. I have been making compromises with bad people my entire life, telling myself it was necessary, that I would fix it later, that the ends justified the means. I am done. Whatever happens, happens. But I am not abandoning you to save myself. You are not abandoning me. You are being smart. I have been smart for 10 years, and it got me here. Beholden to people I despise, afraid of my own past, unable to fully commit to the life I actually want. Maybe it is time to be stupid instead. Tahira wanted to argue, but the look on his face stopped her. She had seen him determined before, confident, even ruthless. But this was different. This was a man making a choice he could not take back. Are you sure? She asked quietly. I have never been more sure of anything. Okay then. She squeezed his hands. We do it together. The next morning, Jaewon called a press conference. Not through his usual channels. Not carefully managed by his PR team. He just sent an email to every major news outlet in Seoul, saying he would be making a statement at 2 o'clock in the lobby of Kang Group headquarters, and anyone who wanted to attend was welcome. Tahira tried to talk him out of it over breakfast. You do not have to do this, she said for the 5th time. We can handle this quietly. Quietly is how they win, he said. You said it yourself. More truth, louder. I meant through articles and interviews, not a press conference where every word will be analyzed. Good. Let them analyze. I want to be very clear. At 1:30 they left for his office. Tahira had debated whether to go at all, but Jaewon had been adamant. Together, he kept saying. We do this together. The lobby was packed. At least 30 reporters, camera crews from 4 different networks, and what looked like a substantial crowd of curious onlookers who had heard something was happening. Security was struggling to keep order. Jae-won had his professional face on now. Calm, controlled, every inch the CEO. But Tahira could see his hand shaking slightly when he adjusted his tie. Ready? He asked. No, but let us do it anyway. They walked in together. The crowd noise increased immediately. Cameras started flashing. Someone shouted a question that got lost in the general chaos. A small podium had been set up near the main desk. Jae-won stepped up to it, and Tahira stood slightly behind him. Close enough to show solidarity, far enough to let this be his moment. He did not have notes, did not have a prepared statement vetted by lawyers. He just looked at the cameras and started talking. My name is Kang Jae-won. Most of you know me as the CEO of Kang Group. Some of you know me from other contexts, other stories. That is fine. I am not here to rewrite history or pretend I have always been the person I want to be. The room had gone completely quiet. 3 days ago, the woman I love was assaulted while doing her job. She was 7 months pregnant with our daughter. She was struck in the face by someone who thought his money and status put him above consequences. You have all seen the video. He paused, and Tahira saw him gather himself. Since then, there have been attempts to discredit her, to make this about her immigration status, or her character, or our relationship, to distract from the simple fact that a violent crime was committed and someone needs to be held accountable. A reporter tried to interrupt with a question. Jae-won ignored them. I am here today to make several things clear. First, I stand completely behind Tahira Mbise. She is one of the most dedicated, compassionate, professional people I have ever met. Attacking her will not change what happened. It will only show how desperate some people are to avoid responsibility. His voice was getting stronger now. Second, I want to address the rumors about my past and my connections. Yes, I have made deals with questionable people. Yes, there are parts of my history I am not proud of. I have spent years trying to move away from that world, but I understand it still shapes how people see me. Tahira's heart was pounding. He was really doing this, really burning it all down. Some of those people have suggested I should be quiet about this situation, that drawing attention is bad for business, that I should protect myself and my company by distancing from what happened. He looked directly at the nearest camera. I am not doing that. Whatever consequences come from standing beside Tahira, I accept them. If business partners want to walk away, fine. If investors get nervous, I understand. If authorities want to investigate my past dealings, that is their right. But I will not be silent, and I will not let anyone think they can attack the people I love without response. Hey, quick pause. I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button if you are feeling this story, and drop a comment telling me what you think Jae-won's past really involves. Your theories might be better than the actual story. Go ahead. I will wait. The press conference continued for another 20 minutes. Reporters shouted questions, most of which Jae-won answered with surprising candor. Yes, he and Tahira were still planning to marry. Yes, they would be pursuing all legal options against Choi. No, he would not detail exactly what his past connections involved, but he was willing to cooperate with any official investigations. Tahira watched the reporters' faces. Some were sympathetic, others skeptical. A few looked like they had just won the lottery, already planning the stories they would write about the mysterious Kang Jae-won finally opening up. When it was finally over, they escaped to his office on the 20th floor. The city spread out below them, Seoul in all its complicated glory. That was either very brave or very stupid, Tahira said, collapsing into his desk chair. Probably both. Jae-won loosened his tie. But I meant every word. I know you did. That is what worries me. His phone started ringing immediately. He ignored it. Then his secretary knocked on the door, looking stressed. Sir, the board is calling an emergency meeting. They want you there in 1 hour. Tell them I will be there in 2 hours. I need to make sure my fiancé gets home safely first. Sir, they were very insistent. 2 hours, J1 repeated. Or they can have the meeting without me. The secretary left, practically radiating disapproval. You are making a lot of people angry, Tahira observed. Good. I've been making the wrong people happy for too long. He drove her home himself, ignoring the calls that kept lighting up his phone. The apartment felt like a sanctuary after the chaos of the press conference. Quiet. Safe. Theirs. What do you think will happen at the board meeting? Tahira asked. They will threaten to remove me as CEO, say I am damaging the company's reputation, demand I issue a retraction, or at least a clarification. And what will you say? No. Just no? I own controlling shares. They cannot actually fire me without a legal battle that would destroy the company. So yes, just no. Tahira kicked off her shoes and put her feet up on the coffee table. You have thought this through. I have been thinking about it for 3 years, since I met you, really. How to untangle myself from all of it. This situation just forced my hand. Do you regret it? He sat beside her, pulling her feet into his lap and starting his usual massage routine. Ask me again in 6 months, when we know how badly it destroyed my life. J1. I am joking. Mostly. He worked a particularly tight knot in her left foot, and she groaned. But honestly, I feel lighter than I have in years. Like I finally stopped waiting for everything to collapse, and just let it happen. Has it collapsed, though? Really? Not yet. But the night is young. He was right to be cautious. By the time he left for his board meeting, 3 major investors had requested calls. 2 business partners had sent carefully worded emails about reconsidering upcoming projects, and 1 government official had leaked to the press that there would be a formal review of Kong Group's licensing for a major development project. Tahira watched the news coverage of the press conference while he was gone, the footage of them standing together. J1's speech, her presence beside him, quiet but solid. The comments were mixed. Some people praised him for standing by her. Others called him a fool. A few suggested the whole thing was a publicity stunt, though Tahira could not imagine what they thought either of them gained from it. Her phone rang. Unknown number again, but this time she recognized the area code. Tanzania. Mama, she answered. Tahira, baby, we have been watching the news. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? Her mother's voice made her eyes sting. We are fine, Mama. I promise. This man who hit you, they say he is very rich. Very powerful. Are you safe? I am safe. J1 is making sure of it. And this press conference. Tahira, everyone is talking about it. Your father's friends, the neighbors, everyone. They are saying your fiancé is some kind of gangster. He is not a gangster. He used to know some complicated people. But he is trying to move past that. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Do you trust him? With my life. And with our granddaughter's life? Tahira put her hand on her belly, feeling the baby move. Yes, Mama. I do. Then we trust him too. But Tahira, if it gets too dangerous, you come home. You hear me? Money is not worth your safety. I know, Mama. But I am not running. Not from this. They talked for another 20 minutes. Her father got on the phone briefly, gruff as always, but she could hear the worry underneath. Her younger sister sent a text while they were talking. You are famous here. Everyone at university is talking about my sister, who stood up to a Korean billionaire. I did not stand up to him. I just refused to be quiet about it. Same thing, her sister wrote back. You are my hero. Tahira smiled at that. At least someone thought she was doing the right thing. J1 came home 3 hours later, looking exhausted. His tie was gone, his shirt wrinkled. and he had the expression of someone who had just survived a natural disaster. "That bad?" Tahira asked from the couch. "Worse. They want me to take a temporary leave of absence while the company weathers the publicity storm. 6 months, maybe a year. Let someone else be the face of Kang Group until this all blows over. What did you say?" I said no. Then I said several other things I probably should not have said in a professional setting. Then I walked out. He collapsed beside her on the couch. I might have just destroyed my own company. Or you might have saved it from being run by cowards. That is a very optimistic take. I am feeling optimistic today. Your speech was good. It was reckless. It was honest. People respond to honest. He turned his head to look at her. How are you so calm about all of this? Your entire life is being dissected online. Strangers are posting theories about you. Someone published your old address. And you are just sitting here like it is a normal Tuesday. Tahira thought about it. I think I am too tired to panic. And also, I keep thinking about those twins I delivered. Baby A and Baby B. Their mother almost died bringing them into the world. But now they are here, healthy and perfect. And none of the struggle matters, because they exist. I'm not sure I follow. What I mean is, this is hard. Really hard. But at the end of it, we get our daughter. We get our life together. We get to build something new that is not haunted by all the old broken pieces. That is worth fighting for. Jaewon pulled her closer, careful as always of her belly. When did you become so wise? I was always wise. You were just too distracted by my beauty to notice. That is fair. They sat together while the sky outside turned from blue to orange to purple. Somewhere in the city, people were writing articles about them, making decisions that would affect their future, choosing sides in a conflict neither of them had wanted. But here, in this moment, it was just them. And for now, that was enough. The next morning brought new complications. Someone had filed a formal ethics complaint against Tahira with the nursing board, alleging she had violated patient confidentiality by speaking to the press. It was nonsense. She had not mentioned any patients, but it still meant an investigation. More stress, more questions. Then the hospital called. Director Han wanted to see her, immediately. "Do not go alone," Jaewon said. He was on his 3rd coffee, running on maybe 4 hours of sleep. "Take a lawyer." "I do not need a lawyer to talk to my boss." "You need a lawyer to talk to anyone right now. Please, Tahira, let me arrange it." So she went to the hospital with a lawyer Jaewon had hired, a stern woman named Cho, who spoke in clipped sentences and took notes on everything. Director Han did not look happy to see her. "Miss Mbise, please sit." "And you are?" "Attorney Cho. I am representing Miss Mbise in all matters related to the incident." Director Han's lips thinned. "I see. Well, this should be brief. Tahira, the board has decided it would be best if you took an early maternity leave, given the circumstances." "What circumstances?" Tahira asked. "The media attention is disruptive to hospital operations. Patients are concerned. Staff members are being approached by reporters. It is creating an untenable situation." "So you are punishing me for being assaulted?" "Of course not. We are simply suggesting a temporary leave until things settle down. Full pay, full benefits. You were planning to take maternity leave soon anyway." Attorney Cho spoke before Tahira could. "My client is scheduled to work for 6 more weeks before her planned leave. Are you terminating her early?" "Not terminating, suggesting." With respect, Director Han, a suggestion from an employer in this context is effectively a termination, especially given the timing and circumstances. Director Han shifted in her seat. "We are trying to protect Tahira. By removing her from her job? By validating the narrative that she did something wrong?" Attorney Cho's voice was sharp. "I think not." Tahira watched the back and forth, feeling oddly detached. This was it, the moment they tried to make her disappear quietly. "I am not taking early leave," she said. "I will finish my scheduled shifts. If that is disruptive, you can explain to your patients why punishing assault victims is hospital policy." Director Hahn's face went red. "You are being unreasonable." "I am being assaulted and then pushed out of my job. Unreasonable seems appropriate." They left 15 minutes later with no resolution. Attorney Cho was already on the phone, talking about wrongful termination suits and hostile work environments. Tahira just felt tired. And then, because the universe apparently had a sense of humor, her water broke in the hospital parking garage. For a second, Tahira thought maybe she had just lost control of her bladder. Pregnancy did that sometimes. But then she felt the warmth spreading down her legs, and the dull ache in her lower back that had been bothering her all morning suddenly made terrible sense. "Oh no," she said quietly. Attorney Cho turned around. "What is wrong?" "My water just broke. I'm only 33 weeks. This is too early." To her credit, Attorney Cho did not panic. She immediately started walking Tahira back toward the hospital entrance, one hand supporting her elbow. "How long have you been having contractions?" "I have not. Just back pain. I thought it was from sitting too long." "Okay. We are getting you inside. Do not worry. You are in the right place." Everything after that happened very fast. Suddenly, Tahira was the patient instead of the nurse, being wheeled through the same halls she walked every day. Nurse Kang appeared from somewhere, taking charge immediately, barking orders at the residents. "Get Dr. Kim, now, and someone call her fiancé. Where is her chart?" Tahira tried to stay calm. She knew the statistics. 33 weeks was early, but not catastrophic. Babies born at this stage had good outcomes usually. But usually was not always, and the fear crept in anyway. A contraction hit, harder than she expected. She gripped the wheelchair armrest and breathed through it like she had taught hundreds of other women to do. "That was a strong one," Nurse Kang observed. "How far apart?" "I do not know. I did not realize I was having them." "Oh, honey, you nurses are the worst patients, always ignoring your own symptoms." Dr. Kim arrived in under 5 minutes, still in her street clothes. She must have been on her way out when she got the call. "Tahira, what did you do?" "I did not do anything. The baby decided to come early." "Babies do that." Dr. Kim was already checking her vital signs, her face serious but calm. "Let me see what we are working with here." The examination took 3 minutes that felt like 3 hours. Tahira stared at the ceiling and counted the tiles. 42. She had never noticed before. "You are 4 centimeters dilated," Dr. Kim said, "and the baby is in distress. Heart rate is elevated. I want to try to stop the labor, but if we cannot stabilize her in the next 2 hours, we are doing an emergency C-section." "No," Tahira said automatically. "I want to deliver naturally." "I know you do. But right now, the baby's safety is what matters. Let me try the medications first. We will see where we are in 2 hours." They moved her to a delivery room. The irony was not lost on Tahira. She had worked in this exact room last week, helping another mother through a difficult birth. Now she was the one in the bed, scared and trying not to show it. Jaewon burst through the door 20 minutes later. His hair was a mess, his shirt buttoned wrong, and he looked more terrified than she had ever seen him. "What happened?" "They said emergency. Is the baby okay? Are you okay?" "We are both okay right now," Tahira said. She held out her hand, and he took it, gripping tight enough to hurt. "But she is coming early. They are trying to stop it." "How early?" 7 weeks. She watched him do the math, saw the fear flash across his face before he controlled it. "What can I do?" "Just stay here. I need you here." So he stayed, pulled a chair up beside the bed, and held her hand through each contraction. They were coming faster now, despite the medications. Every 5 minutes, then every 4. Dr. Kim came back with a resident and 2 nurses. Her face told Tahira everything she needed to know before she spoke. "The baby's heart rate is not stabilizing. We need to do the C-section now." "How bad is it?" Tahira asked. "Not critical yet, but heading that direction. I am not willing to wait and see if it gets worse." Tahira looked at Jae-won. His face was pale, but he nodded. "Do whatever you need to do. Just make sure they are both safe." The operating room was bright and cold. Tahira had been in here 1,000 times as a nurse, but being on the table was completely different. They put up the blue curtain so she could not see the incision. Jae-won sat beside her head, still holding her hand, his eyes locked on her face. "Talk to me," she said. "I need you to talk to me." "About what?" "Anything. Tell me about the board meeting. Tell me about your day. Anything to distract me." So he talked. Told her about the board members who had yelled at him, about Lee defending him against the CFO's criticism, about the secretary who had quit that morning because she did not want to work for someone so controversial. "I told her good luck finding a less controversial boss in Seoul," he said, and Tahira laughed despite everything. "You are going to be impossible when this is all over. I am already impossible. You just finally noticed." Then Dr. Kim said, "She is here," and everything else stopped mattering. The baby did not cry at first. That terrible silence stretched for 3 seconds that felt like 3 years. Then, a small, angry wail filled the room, and Tahira started crying. "She is breathing on her own," Dr. Kim announced. "Small but fierce, just like her mother." They let Tahira see her for exactly 30 seconds before the NICU team took over. She was so tiny, barely 4 pounds, fragile and perfect, and absolutely terrifying. "She has your nose," Jae-won said. His voice was shaking. "She has your stubborn chin. We are in so much trouble." Then they took the baby away to the NICU, and Tahira was wheeled to recovery. Everything hurt. The incision, her back, her head from the spinal block, but mostly her arms hurt from being empty. "When can I see her?" she asked every nurse who came by. "Soon," they all said. "Let the NICU team get her stabilized first." Soon turned out to be 4 hours. 4 hours of lying in a recovery room, exhausted and scared and desperate to hold her daughter. Jae-won stayed the entire time, making calls with one hand while holding hers with the other. She heard him cancel meetings, postpone conference calls, tell someone, probably Lee, that he would not be in the office for at least a week, and they would have to handle things without him. "The company," Tahira said weakly, "can survive without me. You two cannot." When they finally let her go to the NICU, she had to use a wheelchair. The incision made walking difficult. But the second she saw the baby through the glass, sleeping in her little incubator with wires and tubes everywhere, nothing else mattered. "Can I hold her?" Tahira asked the NICU nurse. "In a little while. Let her rest first. She had a rough entry into the world." "Haven't we all?" Tahira murmured. The nurse, a young guy named Min-ho who Tahira had worked with before, smiled. "She's doing great, though, breathing on her own. All her vitals are stable. She just needs to grow a bit." "How long will she be here?" "Probably 3 to 4 weeks, until she hits 5 pounds and can regulate her temperature. Standard for preemies her size. 3 to 4 weeks, a month of coming to the hospital every day, of watching her daughter through glass, of waiting to bring her home. But she was alive. She was healthy. That was what mattered." Jae-won stood beside the incubator, staring at their daughter like she was the only thing in the universe. "She is so small. She will grow. What should we name her?" They had been debating names for months. Tahira wanted something that worked in both Korean and Swahili. Jae-won wanted something that meant something, not just sounded pretty. Tahira looked at her daughter, at the tiny chest rising and falling, at the small fists curled against the blanket. "Amani," she said. "It means peace in Swahili." "Amani," Jae-won repeated. He reached through the incubator ports to touch her hand. "Kang Amani." "Mbise Kang Amani," Tahira corrected. We agreed on both names. Right. Mbise Kang Amani. That is a lot of name for such a small person. She will grow into it. They stayed for 2 more hours before the nurses kicked them out. Tahira needed to rest, and visiting hours were over. She made them promise to call if anything changed, even the smallest thing. Back in her room, she tried to sleep but could not. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Amani in the incubator. So small, so vulnerable. Jae-won was sleeping in the chair beside her bed, his head tilted at an angle that was going to give him a terrible neckache. She watched him for a while, this man who had turned his entire life upside down for her. Her phone buzzed, a text from Nurse Kang. "Congratulations, Mama. She is beautiful. Get some rest. We are all watching over her." Then another text, this one from Attorney Cho. "I heard about the baby. Congratulations. Also, thought you should know, 3 more nurses have come forward about Choi Hyun-seok. Similar incidents. We are building a pattern." Tahira read that twice. 3 more nurses. 3 more women he had hurt. She should have felt vindicated. Should have felt like the fight was worth it. Instead, she just felt sad. Sad that there were 3 more women. Sad that it took this long for them to feel safe speaking up. Sad that men like Choi kept hurting people until someone finally stopped them. Another text came in, this one from a number she did not recognize. "Miss Mbise, this is Park Min-ji. I heard about your daughter. I hope you are both doing well. I wanted to let you know that I am working on a follow-up piece about workplace assault in healthcare. Several women have reached out after your story. Would you be willing to comment when you are feeling up to it?" Tahira stared at the message. She was exhausted. She had just had surgery. Her daughter was in the NICU. The last thing she wanted was to talk to more reporters, but 3 more women had come forward, and probably more would if they knew they were not alone. She texted back, "Give me a week, then we can talk." The response came immediately. "Take all the time you need. Congratulations on your daughter." The next morning brought flowers. So many flowers the nurses had to move half of them to the hallway, from colleagues, from friends, from people Tahira had never met, who had seen the news and wanted to show support. There was also a massive arrangement from someone unexpected. The card read, "Wishing you and your daughter good health." From the staff at Seoul Daily News. "That is nice," Jae-won said, reading over her shoulder. "Journalists with hearts. Who knew? Park Min-ji is good people. She is one of the only reporters not actively trying to destroy our lives. So yes, good people." Dr. Kim came by for rounds, checking Tahira's incision and vital signs. "You are healing well. If everything stays stable, you can go home tomorrow." "Without Amani?" "She needs to stay a bit longer, but you can visit whenever you want, and we will teach you how to care for a preemie before discharge." Going home without the baby felt wrong. Tahira had imagined this moment so many different ways. Carrying Amani out in a car seat, showing her the apartment for the first time, starting their new life as a family. Instead, she would go home to an empty nursery and come back to the hospital every day to visit her own daughter through glass. "This is not how it was supposed to go," she said quietly. Jae-won sat beside her on the bed. "Nothing about the last week went how it was supposed to go, but we are all here. We are all okay. That is what matters." He was right, but it still hurt. The news about Choi broke that afternoon. Not the assault charges, those were already public. This was something new. 4 former employees of his company had filed a joint lawsuit alleging workplace harassment, discrimination, and wrongful termination. 2 of them were women who claimed he had made inappropriate comments and retaliated when they complained. One was a man who said he had been fired for questioning Choi's business practices. The 4th was his former executive assistant, who had apparently kept detailed records of everything for 3 years. Park Min-ji's article came out an hour later. It was devastating. Interview after interview with people Choi had hurt, belittled, or threatened. The pattern was clear. This was not a man who had one bad moment. This was a man who had been abusing his power for years. The public response was immediate and brutal. Within hours, 3 major companies announced they were cutting ties with Choi's business. His board of directors called an emergency meeting. 2 investors publicly withdrew their support. Tahira watched it unfold from her hospital bed, her phone buzzing constantly with updates. "It is happening," she said to Jae-won. "He is actually facing consequences." "Did you doubt it?" "Yes. People like him usually find a way out." "Not this time. Too many people. Too much evidence." He backed himself into a corner. That evening, Choi's lawyer released a statement. Tahira read it out loud to Jae-won. Mr. Choi recognizes that his past behavior has fallen short of the standards expected of someone in his position. He is taking time to reflect on his actions and seek appropriate counseling. He asks for privacy during this difficult period. "Counseling," Tahira said flatly. "He hit a pregnant woman, and he is going to therapy." "He is also going to court," Jae-won reminded her. "The criminal charges are still pending. This is just PR damage control. It is not enough. It is never enough, but it is something. More than most people in his position ever face." Tahira knew he was right, but she was so tired of something being good enough. She wanted real justice, the kind that actually changed things. Her phone rang. Attorney Cho. "Tahira, I have news. The prosecutor's office called. They are moving forward with the assault charges. It is going to trial." "Really? I thought they might try to settle." Choi wanted to settle, offered a substantial fine and community service, but the prosecutor refused, said the case is too high profile now. They want to make an example. After she hung up, Tahira felt something shift inside her. Not victory exactly, more like a small opening of hope. Maybe the system could work. Maybe speaking up actually mattered. She got to hold Amani that night, just for 20 minutes, skin-to-skin contact, while a nurse monitored all the equipment. The baby was so light, she barely felt real, like holding a bird. But she was warm and breathing and perfect. "Hi, baby," Tahira whispered. "I am your mama. Sorry about the dramatic entrance. That was not the plan." Amani made a small sound. Not quite a cry. More like a question. "I know. Everything is weird right now. But it is going to get better. I promise." Jae-won watched from beside the incubator, his eyes suspiciously wet. "Can I try?" The nurse helped transfer Amani to his chest. She looked even smaller against him, this tiny person they had somehow made together. "She is going to hate me when she is a teenager," he said. "Definitely. I am going to embarrass her at every opportunity. I expect nothing less. I am going to make sure she never dates anyone. You are going to try. She is going to ignore you." He looked down at Amani, and Tahira saw his whole face soften. "I did not know I could love something this much. It is actually terrifying. Welcome to parenthood. It is all terror from here." They stayed until the nurses made them leave. Tahira's incision was aching, and she needed rest. But walking away from the NICU was the hardest thing she had done all week. And it had been a very hard week. Before we get to the end, I need you to do something. If this story has made you feel anything at all, if you have been rooting for Tahira and Jae-won, hit that subscribe button. These stories take time to craft, and your support means everything. Also, comment below and tell me what you would name the baby. I want to know if Amani was the right choice, or if you have something better. Now let's finish this. Tahira went home the next day. The apartment felt too quiet without the baby. The nursery was ready, painted a soft yellow with a crib that Amani would not use for weeks. Tiny clothes washed and folded, books stacked on the shelf. Everything waiting for a person who was not there yet. Jae-won had taken a full week off work. Lee was handling things, probably badly, but handling them. The board had backed off after the news about Choi's other victims made Jae-won look less controversial and more vindicated. Turns out supporting assault victims is good PR when the perpetrator is publicly imploding, Jae-won said over breakfast. Who knew? Cynical. Accurate. They fell into a routine. Mornings at the hospital with Amani, afternoons at home where Tahira was supposed to rest, but mostly worried. Evenings back at the hospital until visiting hours ended. Then home to the too-quiet apartment to do it all again. Amani grew slowly. 4 pounds became 4.5, then 5. She started feeding better, crying louder, looking more like a real baby and less like a fragile doll. The NICU nurses loved her. They called her their little fighter. Nurse Min-ho brought her tiny hand-knitted hats. Dr. Kim checked on her twice a day, even when she was not on duty. She is doing great, Dr. Kim said on day 12. If she keeps this up, she might go home early. How early? Maybe another week. 2 at most. Tahira cried right there in the NICU. Happy tears this time. The end was in sight. The trial date was set for 3 months away. Attorney Cho was confident but cautious. Assault cases are tricky, even with video evidence. His lawyers will argue stress, momentary lapse in judgment, out-of-character behavior. It was not out of character, though, Tahira said. We have 4 other victims now. Which helps. But we need to be prepared for him to get a light sentence, suspended jail time, probation, community service. That is not justice. It is Korean justice system reality. I am sorry. But even if the criminal sentence is light, the civil suit will hurt him more. We are going for significant damages. Tahira did not care about the money. She cared about the principle. But she understood that sometimes you had to take what you could get. Choi's empire continued crumbling. Another investor pulled out. A major contract fell through. Someone leaked internal emails showing he had bribed a city official 3 years ago, which triggered a government investigation. None of it traced back to Jae-won, but Tahira had her suspicions. Are you helping destroy him? She asked one night. Jae-won looked up from his laptop. Define helping. You know what I mean. The convenient leaks. The investors suddenly changing their minds. The timing is suspicious. Business is complicated. Sometimes things just fall apart. Jae-won. He closed the laptop. I am not doing anything illegal. I am not threatening anyone. I am simply making sure certain people have access to true information about who they are doing business with. What they do with that information is their choice. That is a very careful answer. I am a very careful person. She should probably have been bothered by it. The manipulation, the shadow influence. But honestly, she was too tired to care. Choi had hurt people for years and gotten away with it. If Jae-won wanted to speed up the consequences, fine. Some things were more important than taking the high road. 3 weeks after Amani was born, the hospital cleared her for discharge. 5 pounds, 2 ounces, feeding well, temperature regulated. All her tests came back perfect. She's ready to go home, Dr. Kim announced. Congratulations, you have a healthy baby. Tahira burst into tears again. She had been doing that a lot lately. Pregnancy hormones, postpartum emotions, stress, relief. Everything made her cry. Jae-won cried too when they put Amani in the car seat for the first time. She looked absolutely tiny in it, swimming in straps designed for bigger babies. We need a smaller car seat, he said. That is the smallest car seat. She is just very small. She needs a custom car seat. I am calling someone. You cannot custom order a car seat for a 3-week-old baby. Watch me. The drive home took 15 minutes, but felt like hours. Jae-won drove 5 kilometers below the speed limit the entire way, while other cars honked and passed them. Tahira sat in the back next to Amani, watching her sleep, terrified she would stop breathing. This is parenthood now, she said. Constant fear. I'm okay with that. The apartment welcomed them quietly. Sun coming through the windows. The nursery finally ready to be used. Their daughter finally home. Tahira set Amani in the crib and just looked at her for a long time. This small person who had changed everything, who had been worth every terrible moment of the last month. "We did it," she whispered. Jaewon wrapped his arms around her from behind, careful of her still healing incision. "You did it. I just held your hand. You did more than that. Not really. You are the strong one." They stood there together, watching their daughter sleep, and for the first time in weeks, Tahira felt something like peace. It did not last long. 2 days later, Choi Hyun-seok's public apology aired on national television. Tahira almost missed it. She was feeding Amani when Jaewon called from the other room. "It is on. Do you want to watch?" She did not particularly want to, but curiosity won. She carried Amani to the living room and settled on the couch. Choi looked different on screen, smaller somehow. His suit was plain, his face drawn. He sat in what looked like a press conference room with his lawyer beside him. "I want to apologize," he began, reading from notes, "for my inexcusable behavior toward Miss Tahira Mbise and others I have hurt through my actions. I was under significant stress, but that is no excuse for violence. I am deeply sorry, and I am committed to becoming a better person." His voice was flat, the words clearly written by someone else. He could not even look at the camera. Tahira watched for maybe 2 minutes before reaching for the remote and turning it off. "You do not want to hear the rest?" Jaewon asked. "No, I do not need his apology anymore." "Really?" She looked down at Amani, who was falling asleep in her arms. "I needed it a month ago, when I was scared and hurt and felt powerless. But now I have this. I have her. I have you. I have a life that is bigger than what he tried to take from me. His apology does not change anything." Jaewon sat beside her carefully. "You are amazing. I am tired." That too. The civil trial happened 3 months later. Tahira testified for 90 minutes, telling the same story she had told a dozen times now. The video was played. The other nurses testified. Choi's lawyer tried to paint him as a man under pressure who made one mistake. The jury did not buy it. They awarded Tahira 100 million won in damages, more than she had expected, less than Attorney Cho had hoped for, but enough to send a message. The criminal trial resulted in 6-month suspended sentence, 2 years probation, and 200 hours of community service. Light, like Attorney Cho had warned, but still on his record, still following him forever. Choi's company filed for bankruptcy a week later. The investigations, the lawsuits, the lost contracts had finally broken it. He was not in financial ruin. He had personal wealth that was protected. But his empire was gone. "Is it enough?" Jaewon asked when the news broke. Tahira thought about it, about the 3 nurses who had come forward, about the employees who had filed suit, about every person who had watched the video and decided to speak up about their own experiences. "It is something," she said, "and something is more than nothing." The wedding happened 6 months after Amani was born, small, like they had planned, but in a different venue, because the original had been too compromised by leaks. Tahira's parents flew in from Tanzania and fell completely in love with their granddaughter. Nurse Kang came, Dr. Kim came, Attorney Cho came, even Park Min-ji came, though she promised not to write about it. Jaewon's grandmother sat in the front row with Amani in her lap, both of them dressed in matching purple. The old woman had made a full recovery from her stroke and had opinions about everything. "You are marrying up," she told Tahira before the ceremony. "My grandson is difficult, I noticed. But he loves you. That makes him less difficult. Only slightly." The ceremony was short, simple vows they had written themselves. Nothing fancy, just promises to keep choosing each other, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Amani cried through most of it, which everyone agreed was appropriate, given how much drama had led to this moment. At the reception, Jae-won gave a speech that made half the room cry. "A year ago, I thought I knew what my life would look like," he said. "I thought I had everything figured out. Then this woman told me I was hovering, and everything changed. She made me want to be better, made me believe I could be better. And when the worst happened, when someone hurt her, and I wanted to burn the whole world down, she chose truth instead of revenge. She chose justice instead of silence. She is the bravest person I know. And somehow, she agreed to marry me. I have no idea why, but I am not questioning it." Tahira was crying too hard to give her own speech. She just stood up, kissed him in front of everyone, and said what he said. The party lasted until late. Music and dancing and too much food. Amani was passed around like a very popular trophy. Tahira's mother taught several Korean guests how to dance Tanzanian style, which was hilarious and beautiful. Around midnight, Tahira and Jae-won snuck out to the balcony for a moment of quiet. The city spread out below them, Seoul in all its complicated glory. "We did it," Jae-won said. "We actually survived everything and made it here." "Did you doubt it?" "Every single day." Tahira leaned against him, tired and happy, and still slightly terrified of everything parenthood would bring. "What happens now?" "Now we figure out how to be married, how to raise this tiny human, how to build the life we actually want instead of the one we thought we were supposed to have." "That sounds hard." "It will be, but worth it." He kissed the top of her head. "Definitely worth it." A year and a half after the incident, Tahira was back at work part-time. The hospital had issued a formal apology and revised their policies about patient behavior toward staff. Director Han had been quietly reassigned to another facility. New leadership actually seemed to care about protecting their employees. Choi had moved to another city. His name occasionally appeared in the news, usually attached to some failed business venture or another lawsuit. But he was no longer the powerful, untouchable figure he had been, just another disgraced executive, forgotten by most people, irrelevant. Jae-won had restructured his company, cutting ties with his old associates permanently. It had cost him some lucrative deals, but he slept better at night. The board had tried to fight him at first, but after 2 quarters of strong profits despite the changes, they backed off. Turned out running an ethical company was actually possible. Who knew? And Amani grew. Walked at 11 months, talked at 13, and by 18 months was a tiny tornado of opinions and energy. She had Tahira's eyes, and Jae-won's stubborn streak, and absolutely no fear of anything. "We are in so much trouble," Jae-won said regularly. He was probably right. On a Sunday afternoon in early spring, they took Amani to the Han River. The weather was perfect. Warm sun and light breeze. Tourists and locals mixed along the walking paths. Street vendors sold snacks. Couples took photos. Normal life, the kind they had fought so hard to build. Amani was fascinated by the water, pointing and babbling in her mix of Korean and English and sounds that were probably Swahili but might just be baby nonsense. "She is going to be trilingual," Tahira said. "That is going to be confusing." "She's already confusing. Yesterday she called me Papa, Daddy, and some word I think she invented." "She is creative." "She is chaos." They walked slowly, letting Amani set the pace. She wanted to stop and look at everything. A dog, a bicycle, a particularly interesting rock. Each discovery was the most important thing in the world. Tahira watched her and felt her chest get tight. This was what they had survived for. These small moments. This ordinary happiness. "Do you ever think about that day?" Jae-won asked quietly. He did not have to specify which day. They both knew. "Sometimes. Less than I used to." "Do you regret how you handled it? Going public instead of letting me handle it quietly?" Tahira thought about it. About the nurses who had come forward. About the policy changes at the hospital. About the messages she still got sometimes from women who said her story had given them courage to speak up about their own experiences. "No," she said. "I think we did it right. It was hard, but it mattered. You mattered. You still matter. So do you. Amani chose that moment to fall down on her bottom. She looked surprised for a second, then laughed like it was the funniest thing that had ever happened. She is fearless, Jaewon said, helping her up. She learned from her mother. Her mother is the most courageous person I know. Her father is not bad at either, for a reformed criminal. Alleged reformed criminal. No one ever proved anything. That is what makes you good at it. They walked until Amani got tired, then sat on a bench overlooking the water. The baby fell asleep in Tahira's arms almost immediately, exhausted from all the excitement of rocks and dogs and falling down. Jaewon put his arm around them both, and they sat there together watching the river flow. I was thinking, he said after a while, maybe we should start planning another wedding, a bigger one this time. Really celebrate. We just had a wedding. That was under duress. I want one where you are not recovering from surgery, and I am not about to have a breakdown from stress. So in like 10 years when life calms down? Life is never going to calm down. Not with her. He nodded at Amani. But maybe that is okay. Maybe chaos is just what life looks like when you are building something real. Tahira looked at him, this man who had turned his whole world upside down for her, who had chosen truth over comfort, who held their daughter like she was made of glass and looked at Tahira like she had hung the moon. I love you, she said. I love you too, even though you are stubborn and impossible. Especially because I am stubborn and impossible. Especially because of that. The sun was starting to set, painting the river gold and pink. Around them, families were packing up for the day, couples taking last photos, the city preparing for evening. But they stayed a little longer. Just the three of them. A small family built from struggle and choice and love that refused to be quiet. Tahira closed her eyes and let herself feel it. The weight of her sleeping daughter, the warmth of her husband beside her, the peace of knowing they had survived the worst and come out stronger. This was the life they had fought for. Not perfect, not easy, but theirs. And that was more than enough. Amani stirred in her sleep, making the small sounds babies make when they are dreaming. Tahira wondered what babies dreamed about. Milk, probably. Maybe rocks. Definitely that interesting dog from earlier. We should go home, Jaewon said quietly. It is getting late. 5 more minutes. She is getting heavy. I do not mind. So they sat for 5 more minutes. Then 10. Watching the river and the sunset, and their daughter sleeping peacefully between them. And when they finally did leave, walking slowly back to the car through the gathering dusk, Tahira felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Pure and simple and unafraid. The kind of hope that believed in second chances, in people changing, in love strong enough to survive anything. The kind of hope that built futures instead of hiding from pasts. They drove home through the familiar streets of Seoul, their daughter asleep in the back seat, their life unfolding moment by moment into something neither of them had expected, but both of them chose, every single day. And that, Tahira thought, was the real victory. Not the trial or the apology or the public vindication. Just this. The quiet choice to keep building something gentle in a world that was often cruel. To raise their daughter to be brave and kind and unafraid of speaking truth. To be partners who challenged each other to be better. To prove that sometimes, when you refuse to stay silent, when you choose justice over convenience, when you love someone enough to stand beside them through everything, things actually work out. Not perfectly, not easily, but real. And real was so much better than perfect anyway. All right, we have reached the end of this journey together. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with Tahira and Jaewon through everything. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next story.